Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com with this week's episode of the Market Monday. This is a topic that I probably should have covered a long time ago, but better later than never. This is all about selling cards in the big, bad, evil world, which is being a solo seller on today's secondary Magic the Gathering market. If you're going to use any of the big three or any of the other outlets, you're going to have to deal with the headache of fees. Now, before I want to get into that, though, I want to remind everyone that the Market Mondays and kind of the finance aspect to the Rogue Deck Builder channel, and even the Rogue Market channel, my second channel, is more geared towards managing a Magic the Gathering collection rather than making the big bucks off of the secondary market. Now, yes, I have thrown my hat into the ring for kind of the higher volume of buying and selling cards. The vast majority, though, of trades, when I even talk about my specs, they haven't been sold back into the secondary market. Yes, I do own a store, so I do have that outlet to sell cards directly to consumers. But a lot of the specs have gone into then trading with other players at like Grand Prix and whatnot, or finding good times to buy list or sell directly to vendors at Grand Prix, rather than have to deal with in today's day and age of dealing in the secondary market as far as eBay or TCG Player is concerned, because the fees really, really do add up. So when I do things on Market Monday, you got to keep that in mind. It's about managing your collection. I have stories about where my entire collection was stolen and how I was able to get back a standard deck, then a modern deck, and eventually a huge collection of cards through savvy trading. And it was never by buying and selling via the internet or the kind of the commercial side of Magic the Gathering. It was all through trades. Now, I do need to make a video sometime in the future about how to be a savvy trader. Now, there is a fine line between scumbaggery and sharking and what I would consider ethical and unethical trading. But you have to also bring in some human psychology. If you enter into a trade, you got to realize that people are wanting to trade. No one wants to go to a trade and then not trade a card. So keep that in mind as you're trading, and you can have that as an advantage against maybe a party that is not as disciplined as you are and wants to make that trade regardless if it's a good deal or not. So that's kind of how I went. Again, some people might call that sharking. I never sharked or was, I would consider, over the line of scumbaggery. I kept the human psychology in mind when I did trade, knowing that if I entered into a trade that people wanted to trade, and then I would be the strict one. I'd be the one looking for the trade up the value. So anyway, that's how I still do a lot of trading personally. That's how I still even with Cardsphere, when I use services like that, same thing. I let the impatient people come to me, and I play the waiting game to find the savvy trades. And anyway, that will be a video for another day. Today, we're going to talk all about kind of these selling cards especially online, and what you're kind of getting into. So there are a few different outlets that people can do. You can sell in person. Selling in person is very, very difficult if you live in a large area with a lot of Magic the Gathering players. It can be a lot easier. A big no-no, though, is to try to sell at your local game store, because you're not in business to sell at someone else's business. And that's a huge pet peeve for local game store owners, especially, is when people come in to try and sell cards for cash to other players. A lot of places that's strictly prohibited. Here at Gone Rogue Games, we allow people to trade to buy store credit, and then they can use store credit to trade back and forth, and that way it keeps kind of the commerce in, or the money kind of in the store, so I could care less what people do with store credit. And in fact, I encourage other game stores to kind of have that sort of mind frame, as it does allow for a lot more games to be played. Like when I was at my Pro Tour qualifier victory was had on store credit, and I remember that's one of the ways I used to get store credit, was just to trade. Other people would trade cash for store credit to then trade me for cards, and it just kept it all in there, and it allowed me to play basically for free, but still by contributing to the economy of the local game store. So some stores will allow that, some encourage that. I think that's a store that if you're around in that area, you should definitely find that store and take advantage of that type of store. And that's your best bang for your buck, is to just slowly grow your collection. And then when you have the higher value cards, as I'm going to show you here in a second, that's where you can actually sell off and make the best percentage without getting killed by the fees. So if you haven't read this article by Saffron Olive by Seth, this was written 3 years ago, but it's still relevant today. I'll have a link in the description. This is selling cards eBay versus TCG Player versus buy list. These are still the big three. I'd even put Cardsphere into the mix here because Cardsphere can be used to actually sell cards for cash. And we'll break down all the fees, and I'll give you my opinions because I basically tried all of these methods at one point in time. Especially since owning my local game store, we've had some pitfalls with where, we thought that, maybe we can play the eBay game or the TCG Player game, and now we're down to really not really utilizing any of those sort of services, and I'm hopefully going to show you why, and another reason why, if you think you're going to make it big or make it rich on Magic the Gathering cards, it's very, very tough to do so just because of how cutthroat the fees are with all of these sites. So first of all, we have eBay. eBay is going to charge a flat fee plus a credit card processing fee plus a credit card transaction fee. I believe it's 10% plus 30 cents plus, if this is still relevant to this day, plus, 2.9% plus a 30% transaction fee plus a 10% fee. So you're looking at 13% out the gates in fees and plus a transaction fee. And so it makes selling like in the $1 mark very, very unfeasible just because you will get hit by that 30% or that 30-cent listing fee. So a lot of people that sell on eBay make sure they at least have $4 to make it even that you get a decent return back on what you're selling. So we have a little bit of an Excel chart here. You can make your own. I'm sure someone's actually programmed one in before of what the card value is or the package value is, what eBay you're going to get out of eBay and where you get out of TCG Player. And it will show you, where the sweet spot is to use each one of these. This is TCG Player. We'll talk about some of the different venues on TCG Player as well. TCG Player takes 8.5% and then another 2.5% transaction fee or PayPal fee, which equals 11%. You can get it down if you have some way like Crystal Commerce to link up with TCG Player. I believe it takes 7.75%, so you get a 0.75% chopped off of that. And I think they have made the fee a little bit lower for the flat fee. I can't remember if the credit card process fee has gone down at all at this point or not. And then they also have introduced what's called TCG Player Direct, which I cannot say enough poor things about TCG Player Direct. I think TCG Player Direct is the biggest scam out of all of them, and I don't know how anybody uses TCG Player Direct. And we'll talk about that when we get to it. It's great to actually buy cards. Horrible. By far the worst out of all of the venues to sell cards. TCG Player Direct is by far the worst way to do so. Again, we'll get to that. So we have this nice little comparison, this little Excel spreadsheet here that you can see that the card value is pretty dismal on $1. TCG Player, and we got to think too that these aren't created equal. Like TCG Player is where you list cards and people can buy them at any times. eBay is more of an auction where you try to list certain auctions and they either have a time where they expire and you have to relist them, or they have a huge listing fee. I mean, all of them will eventually expire. TCG Player does not. But on eBay, usually when you try to package things on eBay, you try to put them in a package rather than on listing cards individually, because that's a quick way to get killed by the fees on eBay. TCG Players, it's a whole other monster though, that you get killed by that 50-cent fee if people do, like the minimal order that people have to buy from you is $2. And so you just basically have to find $2.01 or $2, and you can then the seller will get hit with the 11% fee plus a 0.5% listing fee, or not 0.5, the 50-cent listing fee, and they end up getting out of a $2 package right here. They end up getting like $1.28 out of the $2. TCG Player also even has a lot more hidden fees. If you are trying to really compete, sometimes you have to put like free shipping, and then you're gonna end up having to put a stamp on a card, which is another 50 cents or 60 cents or whatever the hell stamps are up to these days. And so that even cuts into your overall net that you're going to end up getting back. So this is a nice little slider here. It seems like eBay's better until you get around the $7 mark, and it looks like $8, $9. Nope, still about $10 is where the eBay and the TCG Player finally do hit at an even level. So you got to see that if you are speccing into cards and that 25-cent card goes up to $2, well, you really haven't made anything when you sell a card for $2 and make that $1.28, and you thought, that the 25 cents up to $2 was a great return. However, individually, those 25-cent card or those $2 cards end up costing you a ton in fees if you have to sell them individually. So a lot of times I like to steer people away from eBay or TCG Player. One of the bad things about both of these is you often end up competing with people with what I like to call the poor, starving college student. So the name of the game, when I talk about buying cards, is all about patience. Same thing with selling. You got to be very, very patient. And in my opinion, the best bang for your buck is to find the right opportunity to sell. And then A, you don't have to get killed by the fees if you can in person sell to someone. And B, you can usually find a better price than even trying to compete with these markets like eBay and TCG Player. And Amazon's kind of very similar. Amazon, I believe, is a flat 15%, and maybe it's 12% on cards. I've never sold on Amazon, so someone in the comment section might be able to chime in. But it's a very cutthroat. The fees are going to get you as well. You're not going to make a lot back. When you go clear up here, though, that's where you start getting cut less and less of the overall percentage. So that's like what I say, if you are looking to do this whole manage your collection, then sell out of Magic, you should definitely be trading for these higher value cards and then selling those cards. And this is a lot easier to sell a $100 card in person than it is to actually put it on TCG Player. That's what I found as well. You can find buyers that will meet you like halfway between, okay, I can get $88.50. Well, I can sell a $100 card for someone for $95. They feel good because they get a $5 discount from what they would have to pay, and I feel good because I avoid the fees. That is the best way to do that. But a lot of people, that's just not an option. You can't sell at Grand Prix. You'll get thrown out of the venue for that. You can't sell at local game stores, so you have to use places like Craigslist or Facebook or ways to meet people in person to sell it. And a lot of times that can be a bigger hassle than you'd expect. So again, so how do I do it? Well, let's look over some other options. There is one that I have liked, which is Cardshark, but then it's a 15% commission on every item. I believe that the buyer on Cardshark is responsible for the shipping, though. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that there is a minimal shipping that's added to all of the, so that helps out a ton when people aren't competing with the free shipping versus the 99-cent shipping versus the $2.99 shipping, whatever. So again, if the buyer actually wants it tracked, or I think everything does have to be tracked on. So the buyer's gonna have to put a $2.65 fee on everything that they buy, and that makes sure that everything's tracked, and that makes sure if there's any sort of, and I wish that's how TCG Player would actually operate. But again, it definitely is more of a buyer's market than a seller market in this day and age. As people will take their business elsewhere if it's not set up that way. But it really does, in my opinion, eventually hurts the sellers and hurts the game as a whole when it's not an even playing field. So that's why I kind of like the buyers being more responsible for shipping. But again, I'm looking at this mainly through the eyes of a seller. All right, so this is still a pretty hefty commission, but it does protect you at all times, the 15% commission, as if you sell something really, really low, you're actually going to make some sort of money. So that's another way is through things like Cardshark. And then we have what we have, which is buy listing. Now, buy listing can actually be quite feasible because there are places like Card Kingdom and Abu Games that the spread is sometimes so razor thin that I've actually seen Card Kingdom buy cards for more than the TCG Player market price is. So like right now in Animate Dead, TCG market price is $2. That's gone up just recently, but I've seen this as like for example, I've seen this at $1.35 and Card Kingdom paying $1.30 for the card. Now, this is the absolute best way to do it because there isn't any sort of fees. Sometimes there will be like there'll be a PayPal transaction fee when Card Kingdom does PayPal you. Sometimes you can get around these by asking for a check a lot of times, and they will send you a check rather than go through PayPal. Of course, then you have to wait for the check, or like a money transfer, a bank transfer. That's another way that some of these, it depends on the vendor, a bit depends on the buy lister, what they have. But I know I've done that through selling an MTGO, for example. You can go through the PayPal route, and then there's of course a PayPal fee, or you can just have MTGO Trader send you a check. And that's what I've done in the past because when you're selling like 5,000 tickets, that really, really cuts down on how much you make overall is when you have to get hit with even the 2.9% PayPal fee. But anyway, buy lists are actually pretty good. Buy listing can be a headache. There are some services that can help you out. One of them that I have been quite impressed with is Quiet Speculation. If you actually do sign up for Quiet Speculation, now I'm not affiliated with Quiet Speculation in any way, shape, or form. I was affiliated with them at one point. It was on the talks, but then we had kind of the last year drama around November, December, and where I was lost my sponsorship with Gathering Magic, lost a couple other sponsorships with various other people, and I just kind of bowed out. I didn't want to put any undue pressure on Quiet Speculation to try to make if they wanted to associate with me or not. I decided to go independent and cut out all sponsorship. And so far, I am sponsorship free right now. I have no sponsors from any vendors. And it's kind of helped me stay... My voice it's my own voice. I don't have to worry about getting kicked out. I don't have to worry about losing a lucrative sponsorship when I don't have one to begin with. And so thankfully I have been able to keep the brand afloat. This just through the store, through buying and selling, through savvy trades, like I'm saying, and by my awesome patrons over at Patreon. So anyway, we'll talk about that. I promoted enough. I try to give back to my patrons as much as possible by giving them distributor price or market price match for card singles. Anyway, so Quiet Speculation I have been quite impressed with, mainly because they do show you, it's a great place, a one-stop shop to kind of show you the spreads. And it will have market alerts, and for example, this will show you that you can find, right now you can find the Arclight Phoenixes for $14. So if you're wanting to sell right now your Arclight Phoenix, you could probably sell it for about $14. And then you can do kind of the math, go back over here to see what $14 would end up giving you, about $11.96, plus you still have to pay usually the shipping. Because when you're looking at TCG Player, you're usually competing with free shipping at where it gets this TCG Player mid here. So you'd end up looking at if you wanted to track it, there's another $2.60 out of the way, and you would end up being at, so where were we? The $13, $14. You'd be end up around I'd say around $10. $10 is what you'd end up getting with your $13 or your $14 card. And so when you're looking over here, it might just be a lot easier to just buy list it for $9.25 to Card Kingdom. If you're doing multiple of these, you can guarantee it right there. So the spread kind of evaporates at that point here when you find a very, very decent spread between the two. That's so very, very good resource for that if you are looking to buy list. I can't recommend Quiet Speculation enough. Then, of course, we have the third player, which I'm hoping gets a lot bigger, because I think this will eventually close the gap between buyers and sellers and go back to where I like it, kind of the wild, wild west of, like I said, no big vendors comparatively to just your average day Joe. And this is Cardsphere. And I've been very, very impressed with Cardsphere. Unfortunately, though, it's still a huge buyer's market. It is so easy to get cards for way, way, way cheap. I'm sure that if I really wanted to put in the work, I could get cards. I could just go over here to Card Kingdom, even go below their buy list on most of these cards, just all day, put in every card. So go and put Animate Dead from 5th edition for $1.25. Come over here to Cardsphere, wait till all the cards roll in, buy list them all to Card Kingdom, and rinse and repeat and make just that little tiny percentage over and over and over. Like I said, it'd be a ton of work involved, but I'm sure that people already do it, and I'm pretty sure that, this is nothing revolutionary. And unfortunately, though, I think that the spread, this horrible spread between buying and selling versus vendors versus your solo seller, has caused Cardsphere itself to be a buyer's market where people are willing to let go of cards because they are sick and tired of getting killed with fees. So let's talk about fees on Cardsphere. Cardsphere has a 1% transaction fee. That's very, very minimal. That just makes sure that there's enough money to keep the site going. With each transaction, there's going to be some headaches with disputes, and people have to be compensated for their time. Right now, I believe there's not a lot of, I think still the owners and a few other volunteers are doing the majority of the disputes. However, as this scales, that's definitely where the 1% will need to come in, is to just pay for all those disputes to be resolved. So anyway, the other fee is a cash out fee. It is going to, Cardsphere is going to take $10, I believe $10 or 10%. No, it's going to be a minimum, whichever one's higher. And so you can't cash out a Cardsphere until you're about, it's more lucrative to cash out once you're at the $100 or more, because then it will just take that 10% cash out fee. And so if you actually do the math too, with taking 1% per trade and then cashing out at 10%, it by far beats these fees that are on both eBay and TCU Player. So what's the downside of Cardsphere right now? The downside is this. So I've got a ton of cards. See, what's my, let's go to my halves here. So I have, let's see, it says I have $26,000 of halves on my halves. Well, go to send that, and I've got my packages of high offers under 84%. And this is the only thing that shows up, is about a page of 84%. Now, why I've chosen 84, I've just chosen this for today's video. I don't use this for when I send off packages. I'll usually bump this down to even way lower, or just get rid of it altogether. But 84% is basically thinking that you're going to get about a 16% chop off of using any of these other places to sell. So if I'm putting this metric at 84%, that means that these are probably going to be at or near what I could get by selling on TCU Player or eBay, or even by listing these off. So if anyone is willing to pay over 84%, then that's usually a pretty easy send for me. And unfortunately though, out of 26,000 or 24,000, whatever it was, this is the only amount of packages at 84% I can find. So right now, that bridge, in my opinion, needs to be that bridge needs to be lessened, where it actually makes sense on Cardsphere to sell. Now, of course, you can check this every day. You can find good trades. I found 100% trades before, and this is very easy. Of course, you do have to cover the shipping. You do have that 1% that does add up over time, but that's very, very minimal towards the other. So here's a search for Ascanta, for example, for $20. Let's just take this one for example. Let's go over here and see what search for Ascanta is going for. Search for Ascanta on Ixalan. The market price is 21.25. We go over here to 21.25. You're going to get around $18 when all said is done. On TCU Player, $17. That's thinking you can sell it. Who knows if you can sell it if you're actually competing with other ones. And the buy list is 16.50. So in this case, probably sending this off would be the right move on Cardsphere. So I guess to put it all together with this type of video, if you are into MG Finance, if you are doing what I kind of do, the daily grind, utilizing all of these at your disposal is the best way. So what do I recommend? I actually recommend using sites like Facebook, where you can join groups, trying to find it in person. That's usually the best way to get your best bang for the buck. There's no shipping involved. There's no fees involved. It's just a cash transaction between you and a fellow buyer. The next best is to always utilize a trading service like Cardsphere is going to be the next best route. If you can find someone that is sending off at 100%. I think that eventually there will be a less gap between buyers and sellers when people actually realize that you can save a lot of money by buying cards on Cardsphere if you're willing to just wait the time to get that. So currently, look at my receiving here. I'm receiving so many cards. Now, I am the king of Pauper. These are actually a good spread. I think I'm paying like 75% for Rootbound Crags right now. And I'm actually playing 100% for Isolated Chapel, because if I were to go to TCU Player right now, I can't get Isolated Chapels for $3. So come over here, and we look at the Isolated Chapel. That is also one of my other kind of complaints about Cardsphere, is the pricing tends to be a little bit slower. Like Cardsphere still has this anchored at $3 when TCU market price is actually $3.28, mid is $3.50. TCU market price is usually a little bit higher than what Cardsphere's anchored price. So Cardsphere's already low to begin with. And I think it gives an unclear picture on some of these cards of what the going value of the cards is. That's something I've talked with Cardsphere. They won't release exactly where they get all their pricing from. It's a mixture between, I'm sure they look at multiple sources and try to give a baseline of where they value a card at. It's pretty good though. It's not horribly off. It tends to be a little bit behind though the actual market movement. So of course they have to put like a card can actually crash when it's reprinted faster on mid TCG Player than it will on Cardsphere, and vice versa. That's the same thing. A card could actually spike up in value before Cardsphere catches up with it. And they tend to try to put things on a freeze when that sort of happens. They're really good at that. They actually have people that's their entire job, is to freeze cards when there's this discrepancy in the market for whatever reason. Like I said, either being something being reprinted or not being reprinted, and something needs to be freezed till the market actually it settles down. So anyway, I use Cardsphere right now because $3 at 100% is actually cheaper than if I wanted to buy these cards on TCG Player than what I could get. Now, why am I investing in Isolated Chapel? Well, this is just the biggest ever. I've talked about in other Market Mondays where this card is going to have a double up. It's 100% going to have a double up. It's going to be a $7 card when the next set comes out. Ravnica Allegiance, or whatever the hell the set's called, because if we look at Drowned Catacombs and we look at the Clifftop Retreats, they've already had a double up from their set. So for example, we look at Clifftop Retreat, and when it was at the stage it is now, is $1.80. Now it's all the way up to $5.50. The whole thing is this is a very, very sought after color combination to begin with. It bottomed out at $2.80. So we got to think it's going to be a $5-6 card. So getting in right now at the $3 mark is a very, very smart play in my opinion, and that's why I have it up at 100%. So you can use little tips and tricks like that for Cardsphere. One of these days I need to do an entire video on why I put the percentages where I put, but kind of look at these sort of cards that I've got. So let's look at the Detection Tower. So Detection Tower right now, I was the one that got a Detection Tower for 36 cents. So I got it at 51% of the value. So let's go over to Card Kingdom and look what Detection Tower. I don't think they are buying it for 25 cents. They're actually buying it for credit. Now, credit is something interesting for Card Kingdom. I think I'm going to try to play the Card Kingdom game and actually going to get credit next time I sell cards to Card Kingdom. Now, I do sell a lot of cards to Card Kingdom. Like I said, sometimes they are very aggressive on their buy list, and it doesn't make any sense to me. It's just because they know they're going to up their price and sell it. There've been a couple times I've sold to Card Kingdom. One was for the Cyclonic Rifts when they upped their buy list to, it was $2 above TCG market price, and I was just so worried that they were going to be reprinted in the either in Ravnica or the Commander or the Guild kits, and so I just got rid of all of them to Card Kingdom. And now I'm kind of kicking myself because I wish I would have done it to store credit rather than for cash, as now I'm buying a lot from Card Kingdom because it seems to be that they have cards for very, very low at times as well. Like I was buying Thorn Lieutenants for 35 cents or no, Fine Finalities for 35 cents, and the market price at the time was 85 cents like on TCG Player. And like, and this card's going up, not down. So Card Kingdom, you're crazy. And they're the cheapest place on the internet to get that. And found a bunch of those type of cards, and I've been buying like crazy from Card Kingdom. So anyway, where was I going with this thought? So basically I got it for 51 cents. If I was going to buy it on TCG Player, let's see what we can get for Detection Tower. Looks like the market price is 62 cents. So yeah, that's actually a steal of a deal there to get it on Cardsphere. And this is where exactly what I'm using Cardsphere for. So again, patience is the name of the game on MTG Finance, even on the buying and selling aspect for cash. If you just throw a low ball, I've had some arguments with some of these other big Cardsphere traders where they say that I'm hurting myself by having these really, really low ball prices, that people aren't sending me packages because the way that the cart tries to package it together is it'll hurt you when you go to send off a thing. If it tries to create a package, so you have packages sorted by offer percentage. For example, if people have, instead of total value clicked, if they have offer percentage, what it will do is it will try to find, and they have this down really, really low, like this maybe not even existent, and mine will be then down the very bottom because I'll have a bunch of things at the percentage of 51 and lower, even though I have a couple of them at higher, and it will have me clear down at the very, very bottom. What I found though is this balance is very, very hard to keep on Cardsphere, even at a 51%. I've put in probably $1,000 into Cardsphere, and I've actually traded. So let's look at my profile here. I've actually traded. I've sent 778 cards, and there's somewhere it shows how much you sent and received here. I thought there was a way. or you can look at your total sent and received. Maybe it's on receiving. No, I thought it was in profile. Oh well. Anyway, I'll have to find you the entire where you can find how much you've sent and received. And I've sent thousands of dollars worth of cards. And usually I've sent those at the 86 and above percentage and received 3,891 total cards. Many of them at the 71% and below. So again, that's why I really, really highly recommend CardSphere. I know this video was all about, buying, selling, trading cards, the best ways. And my conclusion is CardSphere. Not all the time. For selling right now, that's not the case. Again, I really, really, really want to just hammer this home. If you are looking to go the TCG Player route for trying to start your own TCG Player store, just try to start your eBay store, is it feasible? Yes. Are fees something you should be definitely worried about? Absolutely. One thing that we made a mistake on was doing this TCG Player Direct. This is the most awful service in the entire world. So TCG Player Direct was like, okay, why we liked it is we could put cards for hire. If you're competing with other TCG Player, all you have to really do is compete with the other TCG Player Direct sellers and slightly undercut them, and you'll get cards sold for 20-30% higher than with all the other TCG Player sellers. The problem is they charge an additional fee called the shipping replacement cost. So TCG Player thinks that they're saving your money since you don't have to ship this directly to consumer and you only have to ship it one package to them per month. You're going to save on average about 78 cents per, and they break it down here, between 87 and $1.11 per package. So what do? They're going to charge you this instead of you having to do this. This is so nice of them that they're like, okay, we're going to put an additional 78-cent fee. And what we noticed is we had so many $2 and $3 cards that people bought a one of from us. And TCG Player charges 78 cents plus a 30% or a 30-cent transaction fee plus the 11% fee, and you end up making off of a $3 card, end up making maybe $1 or maybe even less than $1 on its own. There are $2 cards where we end up making 15 cents on, and it was just awful. If you were doing TCG Player Direct, make sure that all of the cards that you sell on TCG Player Direct are $6, $7, $8 or more. Otherwise, it is just the biggest scam ever. And it's just this is one thing that made me so upset with TCG Player. They released this whole hoorah video of when they were going to start their TCG Player Direct program, of how it was going to replace Crystal Commerce. A lot of other online stores, what they use is a service called Crystal Commerce, which has a $100 fee per month. So it's a $100 like a maintenance fee plus a $1,000 startup fee just to get going. And then you have your online store, and then there's a 2.5% transaction fee, credit card processing fee, which is pretty much, that's industry standard at that point. So TCG Player came out saying, oh, these stores get killed by these fees. We're going to come out with TCG Player Direct. This thing will cost you, if you are anywhere near volume of what it would be at a Crystal Commerce, this TCG Player Direct will cost you above and beyond $100 per month in the shipping replacement cost. That actually doesn't save you jack, because this is assuming that you're putting free shipping on your packages. The other thing I can't stand about TCG Player is they actually put that 11%. They put your shipping in that. So they charge you 11% on your shipping. If you have $2.99 shipping, you're actually paying TCG Player a percentile fee. Do not use it. They're an awful company and an awful service. They're tone deaf. If you try to even talk to them, they are horrible. I finally complained to them that they sent me, I bought a bunch of those, a 35-cent card spec. This one that went up to $8. Let's find it here. Prices. I bought a bunch of these Cragwick Cremators for 35 cents and below. So I bought it before the spike happened here. And so they're all lightly played from TCG Player Direct. And I got them. I should have to turn my camera on and show them to you. And they're all on the border of MP and LP. And I finally sent a message back to TCG Player saying, hey, if I were to try to buy list these at lightly played, there is no way, no how that you would accept these at lightly played. You would reject them and send them back. So how come you're sending me the border of lightly played and mildly played? And got no response back from TCG Player. They're hypocrites. They're cowards. They will not even communicate with me about this stuff, but have the audacity to trade fee after fee after fee after fee after fee after fee after fee for their supposed direct program that's going to save stores all this time and energy and money. Now, the one good thing about TCG Player is it's become kind of the commerce. It will get you the most eyes. You have the most opportunities to sell at the highest price, or have the most Magic players come to you to buy cards. So if you're looking for volume, yes, TCG Player is probably right to go. If you're looking to get feed to death and just absolutely killed by fees, TCG Player is the place to be. I kind of view TCG Player kind of the same way as cards for now. It's a buyer's market, not a seller's market. I would not sell a card on TCG Player. I'd find any other outlet before I sold a card on TCG Player. Buying, I still spend probably thousands of dollars per month buying cards on TCG Player, just because I can get those suckers to send me cards where they make no money. In fact, I feel bad because I just did a cart of TCG Player Direct. Yeah, that Cragwork. And they didn't make any money on those cards because the 78-cent fee just completely evaporated any sort of value on like the 35-cent cards that they sent through TCG Player Direct to me. Anyway, this turned into a very, very long ranty video about the fees. The TLDR of this is just, it is a rough world right now to sell cards online. I would definitely look into something like Cardshark just to kind of, the 15% is really, really rough for higher value cards, but for the most part, it's going to be the better route. There are less eyes, though, unfortunately, on services like Cardshark, and that's kind of the negative thing to that. Cardsphere, very, very awesome, and I'm going to promote it like crazy because I think the more people that actually use the service to buy and sell, the gap will continue to slide closer and closer together between where the players and the vendors meet to sell cards. And last but not least, do take advantage of buy lists. You have places like Quiet Speculation that can find you the best buy list. They even offer a service where you can scan all of your cards and it puts them into a file, a CSV file, and then shows you exactly which pile. It'll tell you to put it in pile A, B, C, D, and then pile A goes to Card King, and pile B goes to Troll and Toll. And it calculates the best bang for your buck for if you're trying to sell an entire collection or a bunch of cards. So again, this is, if you're looking to do this amateurly, you need to research this before you, it's one of the things that kind of killed the store before us here in Richfield, was thinking that they could just use the online outlet, that they could just chuck things up on TCG Player if they got an overabundance of cards in stock at the store. And it was just a losing battle to be doing that. And it'll be the same thing for you if you try to buy and sell cards. You know, even if you've made that awesome spec, if you're especially when you're looking at like the $5 spec that goes up to $7, that is completely evaporated by fees. Yeah, you spend $350 on $5 specs, and then okay, so you made $2. You know, you made a couple $100 you would think on of your $5 card going up to $7 card, and then just watch it evaporate with the fee structure that is currently in the mainstream ways to buy and sell cards. Hope you found this video at least a little bit helpful. If you're looking for my top 10 specs of the week, I'll still have that over at the Rogue Market. It'll still probably be called Market Monday Recap. I don't know. Maybe we'll just actually call it something else, but I'll just do 10 cards that I'm actually speccing into for this week. And of course, you'll be looking for the Rogue Roundup over at the Rogue Market channel. Very, very long rambling video as usual. Questions, comments, concern, complaints, everything in the comment section, greatly appreciated. Be sure to subscribe to the Rogue Market channel. I'll have a link there in the description as well. And yeah, I'm there subscription wise to start monetizing the channel. However, I still need a ton of watch hours. So go watch those videos on repeat and help me get to that channel monetized as well, so I can have an extra couple bucks a month for YouTube or ad revenue. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Ken with the Rogue Deck Builder. Thanks for watching.